What is going on, everyone? Welcome to the Tell Me More podcast presented by the Real Estate Cheat Code. And I'm super excited because we have a returning guest, Mr. Aaron Singerman from Key Realty. Aaron, what is good, my friend?
What's going on, buddy? It's been a little while since I've been on the show. I think it was, man, we were in lockdown last time I was
COVID.
COVID, buddy.
Yeah. So what's Aaron, this podcast and we've been friends for a couple of years now, so you kind of know my stance. One of my big missions is really going after and impacting the failure rate in our industry, right? I don't believe that it should be 87% failure rate by the end of year two. I believe real estate is simple yet hard, right? And a lot of times we make it harder than what it needs to be as real estate agents. So this podcast is all about sharing agents' journeys to the business and their successes and failures, right? As far as getting into the business and learning. And as you know, and you're a leader of a brokerage, we all come from different walks of life, different paths, and there's not one way to be successful. So, Aaron, I'm excited to have you on, and just to talk about your journey and where you're currently at.
So I think one of the great things about mine and your friendship is even if we don't get together face to face, I know that me and you definitely feel the same way about the industry. We share the same passions. Don't quote me on the year, but NAR did a report. It was called the Danger Report. I want to say it was in like 2016 or something. I'd have to look it up. But they did a danger report, and it was like, what are the biggest threats to the real estate industry? And to most people's surprise, you know what the number one threat was? The real estate agent. Untrained. It's untrained real estate agents that, get into the business and they, don't, go through training and do things and it gives our industry a bad name. And, the 80 that goes along with what you're talking about, the 87% fail rate. I love what I do as far as managing this brokerage and trying to help agents grow into better versions of themselves and offering that opportunity and showing them the path of maybe how I did it. But the unique thing is what I've learned the longer I've been in management is every single person in this industry has a different path. There's no person I can't model myself off of John Harp and say, this is what I'm going to do and become successful. You have to find your niche. You have to find who you are, because everybody has so many more dynamics to their life. Like I don't have the same dynamics that John Harp does. I don't have those, so I have to mold my life to what's going on in my life to make it work for the real estate industry. And you got to have that hustle. You got to have that grit. You got to have, be ready to work hard. And I think a lot of our industry and a lot of the young people coming into this business, they don't have that. And I wish there was some more there, but you and I both know in the recruiting space, I can tell within the first 10 minutes if somebody's going to be a rock star or not, just by a conversation, and then I can tell if there's somebody that is going to need a little hand holding, but they could do that, but they have huge potential. And then I can tell if someone's not a good fit for the brokerage. So, and that may not be that they're not going to be a good agent. Culturally, they're just not a good fit for what I have and what I'm looking for.
Yeah, and one of the things that I'm seeing now too is the experienced agents that got lazy during the great run that we just had, and having to flip the switch to go back into the hustle and grind mode a little bit because real estate today looks different.
Yeah.
It feels different, and as far as going out and growing business, it's not as easy as it was over the last 3 years.
Absolutely. Yeah.
So
COVID frenzy is gone.
Yeah. We're getting back to the hustle and the grind of 2012, 2013, 2014. Those I've been in the business that long. But Aaron, I wanted to talk about your journey today. Obviously you and I, we see a lot of other agents and we help a lot of agents getting into the business and transitioning and all of those things. For you, what was life like for you growing up?
Man, I have a colorful, I like to say a colorful history. I had a really good childhood. I grew up in Cincinnati. I was in a family of six. Two parents, two sisters, and an older brother. I had an older brother and two younger sisters. Both my parents were doctors. I lived in a nice home in a nice neighborhood. I was given everything that I needed, most of what I wanted. And if I didn't get what I wanted from my parents, I tried to get it from my grandparents, so, but I had a good life. I played in the woods, built forts, and went snowboarding, or not snowboarding, but skiing and sledding. And, I rode bikes with all the friends in the street until the street lights came on, all that good stuff that we used to do back in the 80s and 90s growing up. And at some point, I'll just get brutally honest with this. At a point in my life when I started to come around teenage years, I definitely went left of center, and I started hanging out with some people that I probably shouldn't be hanging out with. It was older kids, and experimented with smoking pot and stuff like that, and went a little left of center, and I ended up in boarding school. And my parents, it was the smartest choice for them at the time. They were both starting their own medical practices. They had three other kids to take care of. And I'm kind of this wild kid that's skipping school and hanging out with the wrong kids. So they sent me somewhere that they knew I would be safe and I would be taken care of. And I spent 2 years there in the middle of nowhere, Alabama, a little town called Trenton, Alabama. It's outside of Huntsville, Alabama. And it was like an outdoor program, man. Like, I lived in the woods. I had to build fires and like eat my food over a campfire, and then earn to get out of a tent and go into a cabin. And then it was like the real deal, man. And it kind of made me grow up a little bit, and find my maturity and find who I was. And when I got out of that, I was a sophomore in high school. They had school year round at this boarding school, so I had tons more credits than all of my senior year. When I started my senior year, I think I only had 2 class requirements because I had so many extra things that I like only had to be at school 2 hours a day in my senior year. So that was kind of nice. But so I went through life. I got out of boarding school and went back to high school. And it's funny, like, all the kids that, when I was younger, like, their parents were like, "Oh, don't hang out with that Singerman kid. Like, he's bad news." Like, I get back to high school, and now all those kids that weren't hanging out with me they're getting into the things I was getting into when I was younger. And it was just funny how you see things come full circle. But I ended up graduating. Like, there's like 150, and I graduated top tier in my class. I did well. I was a
Yeah.
book smart kid. I wasn't, I was terrible in math, but like, I'm really visual. I could open a book an hour before the test and ace it, and that's how I got through high school. But I got into art. I joke when in short conversation with people, they say, like, how did you get into real estate? And I'm like, I make a joke about it. Well, funny thing is, I went to college for art history and came out with a degree in real estate. And that's really kind of what happened. So I went to college in Tennessee after high school. I was doing glass blowing, ceramics, and I think I was going to do like art something with my life. And
Sure.
my high school, the girl I dated in high school, moved down there with me, and we ended up getting pregnant my second year of college, and I dropped out. And shortly after, mine and her relationship kind of fizzled. And, most people know that I have a daughter that is getting ready to turn 18 in November now. So that was a long time ago. And our relationship fizzled out. We both moved to Cincinnati. And then eventually she followed her family up to Columbus, Ohio. And because her parents had retired and moved to Columbus. And so I followed suit, and I moved to Columbus. And I went to enrolled in Columbus State. And this led me on this weird journey for the next few years. I started partying a little more than I should again, but I went to college for, I wanted to be a firefighter at first. So I went to Columbus State, and after one semester, I realized this was a terrible idea and that was not what I wanted to do. And I quit. And I had, in the meantime, I met somebody in the art industry just down the street from Columbus State that owned a glass blowing studio, and his name is Jack Pine. He, we've been longtime friends for over a decade now. I started working in his studio as sort of a shop hand, fixing furnaces and stuff like that, working around the shop. And long full story, comes full circle. I ended up, helping him transition out of downtown Columbus to buying this 10,000 square foot facility in Hocking Hills years later. And we're good friends now to this date. But then I quit his job and went back to school, and I wanted to become a probation officer. I got way down the road, was almost, literally very close to getting my degree. And it was one of those things, I forget what they call it. I think it's the Pell Grant or whatever. Like you have to be full time and you get like a free $2,000 or $3,000 or something extra that doesn't go on your student loans. You just get it for free. So I had to take a full-time class. So I picked real estate principles and practices. And Tom Barrowman at the time was teaching the class. And I mean, like, I fell in love. Like I was in the front row of the seat every single day. I come in like every day for class. Like I'm there 20 minutes early. I'm sitting up front. Like I think I annoyed the heck out of this guy. I'm like, every time there's a question, my hand's up. Like I'm like staying after class. He's like trying to inch out of the room. And I'm like following him out of the building at, just enthralled in real estate. Like, and long story short, I spent a whole bunch more than it cost to go to Hondros and got my real estate degree through Columbus State. And, but that ended up really throwing me into this, like, I look back on it, like, I think I literally took out like $20,000 in student loans just to get my real estate license. And when you can go to Hondros for what, like
1,200,
$1,700, like all in. And, so interestingly enough, Tom Barrowman was really good friends with a lady named Shannon. You may have heard the name. She's been around in the industry a long time, 20 plus years. And she reached out to Tom and was like, hey, is there somebody in your class or somebody that, that would like to come work for me, unlicensed assistant to help me out? I'll pay him under the table. She was giving me like, I think it's like $20 an hour back then. And this was back in 2013, maybe 2014 and 2013 and 2014. And so I started working for her under the table while I was in real estate school. Like, I mean, I was filing paperwork, putting signs in the yard, lock boxes in the houses. I'm watching her. She taught me, like, she gave me a binder on how to fill out a purchase contract. Like I'm diving into this. I'm learning the stuff that they don't teach you before you get it. I walked in the door knowing all of this stuff. Interestingly enough, go ahead.
I was going to say, let me ask you this. You love art, right? Go to school for that. Try firefighting, maybe it's correctional officer. What was it about real estate for you that truly caught your attention and piqued your interest? Because even at that time, right, even 2013, 2014, we're still coming out of 08, 09. It was getting better. But what was it about the industry or real estate in general that really caught your attention?
John, this is a great question that I pseudo know the answer to. And it's like, I've always been, like I said, I've been that guy that's left to center. I don't, beat to the sound of somebody else's drum. Like I beat to the sound of my drum. And I've been a roll with the punches guy my whole life. Like, okay, well, tighten the bootstraps, here we go, sort of thing. Like, this makes sense to me in life right now. Let's follow this path. And, we'll talk about that when we get closer to management, because there's a pattern of that in my life. But like, I've always been kind of like a dreamer. I was that kid, that BC average kid in high school that does just enough job, a great enough job to get by. I'd like to say that I'm a pretty intelligent guy, but I was that guy that wasn't paying attention. During math class, I'm looking out the window and I'm thinking about, something else. Like I never wanted to follow the system and follow society. I always, and that's one of the beautiful things about my parents. They're both doctors, and none of us kids followed in their footsteps. My dad's brother is an attorney. There is an art teacher, an art professor. And then my uncle was an entrepreneur. One of my other uncles, he's in real estate. He owned a guitar business, a string of Radio Shacks, and all sorts of things. So I've always been I just like something about it. Like, I remember sitting in principles and practice, and Tom was very brutally honest. If you don't know Tom Barrowman and you get to meet him, like, sit down and pick his brain. He's been around a long, long time. And he flat out was honest. Like, it's what I love to hear. He was like, most of you aren't going to make it. This is hard. This is a business that you have to put effort into. And that got me excited. I didn't get scared. He's like, most of you look around the room. I think there was like 15 of us in here. In 5 years from now, only 2 of you will still be in the real estate business. And I remember looking around and going, sucks to be you guys. Like, seriously, like, that was my mentality. And like the next day, 2 or 3 people dropped the class. Like, and I was still in the front row every single time. Like, that's just who I was. Like, I don't know. I think I don't like having, interestingly enough, I ended up in management, and I do have people above me. But I like the entrepreneurial idea of real estate and being able to create my own future by, my own hustle.
No, I'm curious. You switched your degree to go and get your real estate license, and um, when you made that decision, especially with your family background, right, of doctors, and people that it's not 100% commission based industry. Now, if you own your own practice, yes, right, because you're an entrepreneur and you're a business owner in that case. But sometimes you're working under an umbrella. Did you get any pushback, supporters, doubters, any pushback of like, Aaron, like, this isn't a safe career. Like, we just came out of a recession, and a real estate collapse, and now you have a little one, and you're going to jump into this business full time and go 100% into real estate. Like, what was that dynamic like? Did you get any pushback?
I think there is one person, when I was going through real estate school, I was working for Shannon, and I was also still working, for a guy doing HVAC work here locally, still a really great friend of mine. But I had worked for him for a couple years. I was doing residential installs, furnace and air conditioner installs and stuff like that. And I remember the day that I told him, I'm doing this. I'm getting my real estate license, and I quit, and I stopped working for him. And I remember him saying to me, it's hard, and most agents don't make it, and the door is always open. If it doesn't work out, you can come back and work for me. And I use that again. It's fuel. That stuff is fuel to my fire. You're insinuating that I'm not going to be successful. Well, now I have to prove you that I'm going to be successful. And interestingly enough, like, he now, huge supporter of mine. I've sold homes to his kids, his cousins, his sisters, him, a couple times. But my family, I think my mom and dad were just so happy to see me on fire for something. They were always very big supporters of us kids to be who we want to be and find ourselves in lives and do what makes you happy. And, you know, interestingly enough, that, again, pushes into my management career because my dad spent the majority of his life as a pediatrician helping kids. But on top of that, he also loved to teach and teach other doctors and up and coming doctors to become the best versions of themselves. And they hired people fresh out of, med school and stuff like that. And my dad found a passion in teaching, which kind of lent, if you ever read, and some of the viewers are watching, ever read my Real Producers article from, I don't know, I think it was April of 2020 or 2021, right in the middle of COVID. I talk about, this whole switch from me leaving HER to Key Realty to all of this all happened at the same time. My wife was pregnant, we were getting married, and my dad passed away suddenly. And it was just this heavy time in my life where, everything just sort of fell and mushed into place. And I just rolled with the punches, like I said. And I really felt like going into the management thing was my next step logically, because I felt like it was something I had to do for my father, because that's what he spent his life doing, was
Yeah.
helping people become better versions of themselves and taking care of other people, including his family.
Well, and we'll get to that. I want to go back to, your, because this is where I think the industry can be way better. You had a very similar situation to me, and you had Shannon that was able to help bridge some of that gap, right? And you were learning the real side of real estate while taking the classes. And I had that opportunity and ability too. Like I was Ryan's admin as I was going through classes for the first summer of me, being in real estate. And um, from there, it sounded like, or sounds like, you had a mentor that poured into you once you were licensed. So kind of give me, that rundown of, all right, got my real estate license. What was your business like? What was the dynamic? How did you go out and grow your business? Was it instant success? Was it failures? Kind of walk me through that journey, up until maybe the point of you making that decision to make the move and go into management.
Um, so Shannon, Shannon, well, let me back up a little bit. So I started working for her and doing the assistant stuff. And then I got my real estate license. And I remember I said I like to beat to the sound of my own drum. And I, thought I had learned everything and knew everything. And I told her, I was like, I'm going out on my own. And there was when I first got licensed, there was a brief time where I actually didn't go to HER. I was at KWXL for like maybe a week. And we won't dive into that too much. Nothing bad to say there. I just, Shannon was like, you need to get back over here. And I got over there and I was like, okay, I'm coming, but I'm not going to be on your team. I'm doing my solo thing. And I went out, and my first year in the business, I sold 2 homes. And I mean, I worked like a dog. I ran around like a chicken with my head cut off. You know that meme of Jim Carrey sticking his head out of the back of the limousine, and like if somebody was talking about real estate, they're like,
Yeah.
that was me, man. If you even had a dream about real estate last night, I was knocking on your door like, yo, what's up? Like, I would, there's this one day where I remember it, I showed a house in London, Ohio, Washington Courthouse, Mount Vernon, and Pataskala. And all to 3 different buyers, and none of them wrote an offer. I mean, it was like 300 miles in a day, and none of them wrote an offer. And they were kicking tires, but I didn't care, man. I was just hungry. And Shannon, all the time, this whole time, she's sitting back watching me and just letting me, she's just sitting there twiddling her thumbs, watching me and letting me do my thing. And and sort of giggling about it. And then I finally like went to her and I was like, I don't get it. Like, what am I doing wrong? And she's like, let's do this together. Like, let's start a team. And she took me under her wing and she was like, you're running around like a chicken with your head cut off. Like, you need to focus on one thing. And this is what I really try to hammer home with my agents is like, don't try to be the superhero rock star real estate agent that you see on Instagram. Like, it takes a long time to become that person. It takes a really long time. Some people get it quicker than others, but to really gain rock star status, making several $100,000 a year, even to $1 million a year selling real estate, doesn't happen overnight. So she was like,
Yeah.
focus on one thing. And I stopped trying to do, downsizing and upsizing and, whatever. I focused on first time home buyers and I started doing first time home buyer seminars. I was sending mailers to apartment complexes. I mean, like this was back in 2014, 2015. Right when Facebook ad spend was becoming a big thing. I
Yeah.
was and before it was the wild west of Facebook ad spend when you could target like a,
Yeah.
a 2 block radius on Facebook, like before they got hit by the fair housing
Yeah.
um, or the HUD and urban housing department by the federal government. But I mean, I was cranking, man. I think my second year in the business, I did 36 transactions and she helped me hone that in. Like, she was doing, I think, Boomtown and Bold Leads and all these different things that she had coming in, some Zillow stuff and um, lots of lead gen stuff. And then, but I like at the same time, I have this big community of people that I'm involved with in the recovery community. A lot of people know this. There's a charity foundation 501c3 that I'm heavily involved with, Compassion Outreach Ministries of Ohio. So like I'm very involved in the recovery community and
Yeah.
giving back to that community. And I think a lot of my friends, like hundreds of friends in that community, realized, oh, this guy is serious. It's not just another one of Aaron's hobbies. And they started to take me serious. And I'm seeing these people put their lives back together and then they get married and then they have a kid. And what's next? They buy a house. So it was kind of like this perfect marriage in the millennial time frame. I was like 30 years old at the time and everybody was getting married and having kids and buying houses. So the first time home buyer thing, this was back when you could get somebody with OFA and all that stuff, offers accepted, FHA, OFA stuff, like and I did very well, very, very well. And that was, and Shannon and I started this team together and we learned everything about team building, like hiring and firing and what works and what doesn't work. And it was great. Like I credit Shannon for so much more than I think she knows. Like she molded who I am. Like I think it's very similar with you and Ryan. I've seen you two interact, in public, and I can tell that there's that mutual respect for each other. And it's the same with me and Shannon. Like I have an immense amount of respect for her and what she's done for me in this industry, because I honestly, she had nothing to do with my trajectory of management, but she has everything to do with who I am and how I learned what I do.
Yeah. I hope the listeners, caught that. Year one, no direction, no clarity, no understanding of how to go out and attract people and build business, and did 2 deals. And then
Mhm.
year two, really found a mentor. And those that have listened to me, I believe in 3 things. I believe everyone should have a mentor and a coach. I believe everyone should have a peer, someone that's on the same journey as them, to get through the lows and the high, celebrate the highs. And I believe everyone can coach someone to get where they're currently at. And I bring that up because that mentor, that person that you need, is going to help you with the clarity pieces, and that's what you got, right? You know this, I know this. Other individual agents succeeding at a higher level, or teams succeeding at a high level, they don't try to do everything.
Mhm.
They do what they're great at, and usually that is 2 to 3 things, maybe 4 things max, right?
Yep.
They're not out crushing it on all cylinders and in all areas of real estate, because there are teams out there that are, and those are the teams that are probably selling 1,000 plus homes, a year.
Mhm.
But the reality is you only need to be great at 2 to 3 things, and you're going to have the success. And I hope you guys caught that. And that
Yeah.
right there is the beauty of real estate, because what you put into is what you're going to get out. 36 deals by the end of year two. Like, that's possible.
Mhm.
Like, it's possible. You just need some direction, some clarity, and to hone that work ethic with it. So,
Yeah. Yeah.
Aaron, lead me up to, okay, building your individual real estate career, right? Obviously, there's that moment, that pivot, life, everything's getting thrown at you all at one time. What made you want to kind of go more into the management role?
I didn't. Interesting. This is this it's an interesting story. It fell into my lap when I decided that I needed to make a change. Part of it was like, I was running around like a chicken with my head cut off. Like, I was doing very well in real estate, and my wife was pregnant. You know, we had just started, not just started dating, but I had proposed to her, and she wanted to have kids, and that was a conversation that started. Like, hey, like if you want to have kid, like if we're gonna have more kids, like, uh, you know, I'm gonna need you. Like, I'm working sometimes. You know how it is, the hustle and the heat of it, like 60 hours a week. Like, some people think real estate agents don't do anything. Like, man, there were some weeks where like I'm gone. I leave the house at 7 and I don't come home until 7 every day of the week. I'm just out there showing houses and grinding and writing offers and doing whatever. I wasn't getting burnt out, but I heard my wife loud and clear, like, this is something that has to change if we're going to get married. And so I started thinking, maybe I need to start a team. I interviewed with, I don't know, Cutler, Coldwell, Emerge. I just started exploring around. Me and Shannon kind of got into it a little bit when I first left, because I didn't really give her a heads up. I just started looking around, and I took off, and I met with Key Realty, and at the time there was another guy running the brokerage, and to his credit, like, man, he pulled out all the numbers. He showed me, what I made last year, what I could be making by coming to Key Realty, and I was sold right then and there. Like, interestingly enough, I had met the owners, or the owner, one of the owners of Key Realty at I believe it was a fundraiser dinner of some sort for the recovery community a couple years prior, and I liked the morals and the ideas and the mission statement behind Key Realty, and then on top of it, like, the commission structure, it was appealing, and I was leaving to start my own team so that I could spend more time with my family and
Yeah,
structure things a little different. I had helped Shannon build her team. I knew what I needed to do. I knew how to do it to scale more transactions and to spend more time with my family. I felt like Key Realty was the right fit. I came over in December of 2018. Then my wife and I got married in January of 2019. And in January of 2019, the owners, or not the owners, the broker managers in Central Ohio for Key Realty, um, left and started another brokerage. And we're not going to dive into that, but if you know me, most people in the industry know the story behind that. And anyways, long story short, fast forward about a month to 2 months, I started helping out, when they left, and touching base with our home office team and seeing how I can help and make it a soft landing for all the Key agents. And I just wanted to see Key continue to succeed and and move in the right directions, and for the agents to feel comfortable, because there was a little bit of shakeup in the industry when that
sure.
happened. And I felt passionate that they needed to feel comfortable. So I was boots on the ground. I was trying to help with that, but I just got married and I was going, my dad had passed away the year before. And my wife and I decided we were going to go to Australia. I was going to go scuba dive the Great Barrier Reef. And I remember getting ready to leave to fly to Australia, and the owner of Key Realty calls me and he's like, "Hey, man, I know you're getting ready to go on your honeymoon, but I'd like to offer you um, the job managing my brokerage here in Columbus." And I was like, "Man, you're going to have to give me some time to think about this. I'm going on vacation. I'm going on my honeymoon with my wife, and I'll discuss it with her." And he goes, "Well, the job's yours when you get back to the US if you want it." And again, roll with the punches, bud. Like I talked with my wife about it. We were gone for 16 days. And it just felt like it was the next move. It was where I needed to go with my career. It felt almost like my dad was talking to me, like, give it a shot. Like, what's the
Yeah.
worst that can happen? I know real estate backwards and forwards. So if it doesn't work out, I don't like it, I can go back to selling real estate. And my dad spent a lot of his life teaching, med students and helping them become better versions of themselves. And he was passionate about it. He really cared about those people. And I felt like, why not? Let's do it. And here we are, 4 years later,
Yeah.
still in management, took the company from 100 something agents up to, I think we're just over 300 agents here in Central Ohio, 1,400 agents nationwide or throughout Ohio and Michigan. So, it's a growing company. I enjoy what I do. I really, really love working with my agents. Like, and I genuinely like being able to see them, you know, I almost relate it to my journey through recovery. Um, in early recovery is like, you see um, people come into either a 12-step program or a rehab or whatever, and they are broken and they start to piece their lives together. They start to realize who they are as a person. They, get a job, become a productive person of society. And, then they meet somebody and they get married and they, in their life, you
Yeah.
see their life flourish. And it's the same thing. I love seeing somebody come out of Hondros or Columbus State and they're excited about it. And then next thing you know, like they're selling, a couple homes their first year. And then their next year, they're like, 20 homes. And then they're like, they come to me and they're like, "Man, Aaron, this is so great. Like, I'm taking my kids to Paris this year. Like, or,
Yeah.
I just paid for my kids' braces in full. Like, I didn't have to take out a credit card and a payment plan. Like, like this career has afforded me the life beyond my wildest dreams." Like, those are the moments where I'm like, "Man, this is great." Like, I'm not taking their credit, but I love seeing the growth. Like,
Yeah. Yeah.
it's there's something powerful to it. And I know you're in that same space of training agents and growing. And on the other hand, there's a I'm not saying a bad side to that, but there's the failure side,
Hmm.
that weighs on the management business too. Like, seeing the failure rate. This is rewind us all the way back to the first 2 minutes of this podcast, right? Like the failure rate. It's hard watching that too, because you're like, man, I
Yeah.
really wish I could get this person to live to his potential, but his or her potential, but they don't.
Yeah. Yeah. That's one of the biggest, that's one of the most gratifying things, right? Like you can get, because look, the reality is most people get into real estate for one of three things. They want to make more money. They want more freedom, within their life, or they want more flexibility within their schedule. And a lot of times that's caused or created because they're in a career or doing a job that they absolutely hate or do not enjoy, right? Like most people aren't doing real estate and another job that they absolutely love. Some are, but the
Mhm.
majority are not, right? It's like, I want to get away from this big pain point of my life, which is usually a job, right? And come into real estate to where they can have all three and you can get all three. and seeing the people, and because you've experienced it and I experienced it, and every leader out there, whether it's a brokerage or a team leader, has experienced it. They want that for everyone that comes into their,
Yeah.
I would say, into their environment, right? Into my environment. I want that for everyone because it's been amazing for you. Real estate's been amazing for me, and that's the biggest challenge. Aaron, I'm curious though. You know, and normally I have team leads on here, but I don't have that many, broker owners or people that are leading a brokerage.
Mhm.
Um, what's one thing that you can give advice on when it comes to team leads or people that want to grow their individual brokerage, as far as how to go out and attract the right agents for you, because you took it from 150 to 300 or whatever you guys are at today. What's something that you've learned there?
That's a that's a it's a double-edged question. There's a lot there's a lot of it's almost like a science into going into recruiting and what you want for your brokerage and what you don't want for your brokerage. And I don't take everybody that comes to the doorstep of Key Realty and wants to join. Like every brokerage, I believe every brokerage is not created equal. We all have different
Hmm.
things that we offer, and that are make there's things about EXP that make EXP far more better of an option than Key, and then the same thing goes for Key. There's things about Key that make it a far more better option than EXP or Coldwell Banker or Emer, whoever we're talking about here. Like they're all great brokers and they all are a place for somebody to hold their license where they can be successful. But here's the reality is like, do you have what it takes to become a good real estate agent? Are you willing to dedicate the time it takes to become a good real estate agent? And I think more importantly than anything, and something I've been learning more in the last year, is it's not just who they are, but getting to know the agent's why. Like when somebody comes to sit in my office and they want to talk about joining the brokerage, I want to know their why. Why are you getting into real estate? What motivates you? What are what drives John Harp as a person to do the things that he does on a daily basis? Because that's how you tap into them becoming successful. You have to see if you can marry their why in life in general with real estate. Um, you know, I don't have a bunch of teams at Key, so I can't really speak to like the team growth atmosphere. But as far as just growing agents, I want to look for the agents that want it. They really
Yeah.
are excited for this business. They're excited to jump in head first and do this. And I try and vet that as good as possible. Um, I think uh, you touched on it a little bit earlier. Is just finding the agents that are passionate and are ready to move and have the hustle. It's very very important, but it's also kind of rare.
Yeah. You said something as far as, finding their why. How do you, um, because that can be a loaded question, right? And a lot of times people want to give you the fluff answer that they want you to hear, right? How do you really dig into understanding the true reason as to why they want to be in real estate? Do you have a process, or do you?
Um, well, I mean, it's one of the first questions I ask as soon as you sit down with me. Like, how did you get here, and why real estate? What drives
Yeah.
you as a person? And here's the thing, like I've been doing this long enough to where I know people and I know when I get a fluff answer and I don't dig deeper. If you can't give me your raw gut, what your passion is, what your why is, and you're just giving me some fluff, we're probably not a good fit.
Yeah. And it's okay to have your why changed, right? Like,
Yes.
right now,
Yes.
like right now, like, bringing on agents, and this is just all part of the game, right? Like you see agents, and if they would just commit the time, right, to real estate, they would have success. But then they go and they get a part-time job, or they have to go and get a job because obviously we all have bills to pay, right? So,
Mhm.
it's not a knock on that, but it's a knock on, like, for me, I would do anything. I would get back to doing open houses, and I hate open houses. I would door knock. I've never door knocked a day in my life. But for me, I would do whatever it took to avoid going to get a job to clock in and clock out, because I haven't done it since college,
I'm
right?
terrified.
So like, so like,
Like, that's a nightmare. I would wake up in the middle of the night in a cold sweat of me like having a nightmare of me clocking in at a job. Like I wouldn't know what to do.
yeah, and it's so, that why can change, and that motivation can change with time. In the beginning, my motivation was, shit, I was 22 years old and I was at the pool on a Tuesday drinking beer when my friends were still working, and that was my motivation, of the lifestyle that real estate provided. Aaron, I want to be respectful of your time, and I know we're getting close to the end here. What's some goals that you're looking to hit over the next couple years? Where do you want things to go?
You know, I love what I'm doing. I love my brokerage. I love the growth I'm seeing. We're looking at some growth trajectories, opening more rural offices. Expanding a little bit. I love that sort of aspect of the business. The more I get into the management side, the more I love the like actual internal management stuff and learning how to grow regions and stuff like that. If anybody paid attention, I opened an office in Lancaster like a year and a half ago, and we went from like 3 to 40 agents, and it was like 90 days. So we went from the like eighth or ninth largest brokerage in Lancaster to the second largest, and in no time. So I'm loving this growth thing. I'm loving Keys growing. We're bringing on new management. I'm training with that, so that's fun. But I'm growing my life as well. My wife and I are getting ready to launch a podcast too. So we're, getting into some, lifestyle changes. My mother-in-law was diagnosed with breast cancer and almost lost her life. And my father
Mm.
died from cancer. And it really opened our eyes to, um, you know, it's some crazy statistic of like only 10% of your genetics determine the diseases that you get in life. The other 90% is what you ingest in your body, what you are putting in your body, what you're eating, mainly. And so that kind of led us down this journey of we bought a farm recently, and we're trying to I don't want to let the cat out of the bag before my wife and I launched the podcast and stuff. But we're going down a pretty cool little like holistic, organic, health route, and it's pretty cool little journey, little side hustle thing that we got going on. But I'm in this for the long haul. I want to see agents succeed. I want to see our community succeed, and I want to give you take a minute to shift the focus off of me and shift it onto you, John, and give you um, a, a big thanks for the work you've done inside our community, in Central Ohio. I mirror it very similar to Katie at Real Producers. She marries a lot of people in just relationships, and she's bringing us all together as a community. And as much as I have a 3-year-old and 4-year-old and would love to be on Clubhouse, I think you notice I jump on there like every once in a while. I'm like, oh, the kids are still sleeping. Let me jump on. But you know, uh, what you're doing with the Clubhouse stuff and just the community and Facebook and growing, bringing us together, because it drives me nuts when you know agents and or brokerages feel like this is a competition, because or one or another is their competition. We're not. We're a community, and we should look at it that way. We are a community of people that should be supporting each other 100% of the time. I see no enemies. I see no competition in this business. I see community, and I wish there was more of that. And kudos to you for trying to, bring that to our community. You and Katie take it to a whole nother level. Yeah, I had to say that. So thank you.
Well, it's one of those things that, there are people out there in our industry that do want to help each other get better. When I first got into the business, it was no one was willing to share. And at least that's what it seemed like, right? Like, I was at Keller Williams Consultants, one of the bigger offices at the time, probably still is one of the bigger offices overall locally. And
Yeah.
it just felt like, other than, some people here and there that you talk to, but there wasn't anyone really sharing listing presentations, or there wasn't anyone talking about, hey, I was able to get this deal done because of X, Y, and Z, and really going, deep diving into some of those things. But then at the same time, at the other end of that sentence was, oh, new agents are terrible and they're ruining our industry, or part-time agents are ruining our industry. We need to figure out a way, how do we level up the industry just so that we all can get better, right? But no one was willing, it seemed to me, was willing to ever do anything. So it's really, and this can be applied to your guys' business, and it, with your clients, past clients, SOI and whatever. Uh, the number one thing that you be doing in a community and finding who those people are, right? And that's all I did. And obviously, I always tell people it's not just me; it's everyone else, right? Because everyone else had to buy into it and to show up and to continue to show
Yeah.
up and to continue to give, right? And most importantly, to be transparent in where they're failing, right? Because if we all just talked about, hey, this is all gravy and this is all great, the reality is no one's showing up just for that, right? They
Mhm.
want to hear about the struggles, because I always tell people, like, if you're selling one house or you sell 500 homes, we're all going through the same shit. It's all the same shit. It's
It's
just
all,
it's just a
all
it's
every
a
bit of
little
it.
different. It's a little different. It's maybe at a higher scale, but it's the same stuff. It's the anxiety, it's the stress, it's the depression, it's the drinking and the drugs, and I always say it's sex, drugs, and real estate, right? Like, it's
Yeah.
it's all of that stuff, and we all go through, right? And that's what the community is. So look, I appreciate you jumping on when you can,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
doing what you're doing too. So, Aaron, I
Well,
got
a
two
little
two
nugget
final
here.
questions for you. Oh, go ahead.
No, I was just gonna say, like this is a quick nugget. Is like, Gary Vee gets asked all the time, why do you give out all this free content? And he's like, because 95% of the people won't execute. And but it's that 5% that do, by giving that free information. And he was the king of like talking about failures, falling on his face and growing and giving away free information. And that's what I equate that to. Like, that's what we're trying to do. We're trying to marry that community, give that information. And for those who want to come along with the ride, great. Like, that 5% that wants to be here, because that's the reality. About 5% of our market is doing all the business. So take what you can, leave the rest. Like you said, you only got to be good at a couple things.
Yeah, yeah. Aaron, two final questions for you. What's a legacy goal for you? What's a goal that you want to hit when you're no longer here?
I want my kids to continue to talk about me when I'm gone. I'm not taking anything with them. I want my kids to remember me as present, as a leader, as someone that they looked up to and left a mark on this world. I don't feel like I'm even close to finishing what I'm here for on this earth. I feel like I have a lot left to do, and my legacy is just for they say you die twice. Okay, you die when you actually pass away, and then you die when people stop talking about you.
Yeah.
And for me, you know, that's something that I try to live out in my father's life. I talk about him often. I bring him up often because I don't want him to die again in my life. And he was a big impact in my life. And I want my kids to feel the same way about me. That's the legacy. It's nothing to do with real estate. It's nothing to do with anything crazy. Like, I just want my kids to say, man, my dad was always there. He always had advice. He was always trying to help. Um, that's what I want. That's it. Something simple.
Mm, I love that. Aaron, one final question. If you could give our audience some advice on real estate, something that maybe you received early on, maybe something that you wish you would have known. What's that one thing that you always give out?
John, you already said it, and we kind of talked, and I talked about it. Find that running buddy, find a coach, find a mentor, invest in yourself. There's somebody out here that has done it before you. Even if somebody latch on, if somebody has done one more real estate transaction than you, they know a little bit more than you do, and they can help you. Find a running buddy in the business, find a coach, get in a mentor program if your brokerage offers it. Um, Find that person that you can have some accountability with. It's so important. Your success rate is going to jump. It's going to put you out of that 87% percentile of the people that fail. I truly believe that.
No, I agree. I agree. Those that are watching, if you guys are looking to buy, sell, invest in Central Ohio, or if you're a real estate agent that wants to just connect with Aaron, even if it's just grabbing coffee just to chat, maybe you resonated with his story or with his nonprofit or, anything that he's doing, his email and his phone number has been scrolling at the bottom this whole time. Please reach out to him. Look, Aaron is one of my great friends in the business, and I send him agents all the time that I think may work better for his brokerage than my team or my brokerage. And he's going to get to where you're trying to get to. That's 100% for certain that it's going to happen. So, but Aaron, for those that are listening in, maybe not able to listen or to watch, what's the best way for someone to connect with you regarding real estate?
All of them. My phone number, 614-395-9681. Email aaron@keyrealtyagent.com. And then social media. There's Facebook. You can find me, Instagram, the Aaron Singerman. That's about it. I'm old school, Facebook and Instagram. I'm on LinkedIn too. You can find me there, all of those platforms, but I haven't dived into the other, TikToks and Snapchats and all that sort of stuff. But I'm available if you want to get a hold of me. Google me. You'll find me there. There's actually two Aaron Singermans. One's a bodybuilder and one looks like me. So it'll be pretty easy to figure out which one you need to contact. So
Aaron, thanks so much. I had a blast chatting with you and picking your brain on some things. I appreciate you so much. And if I could do anything for you, hit me up. I'm here to help.
absolutely, John. Thank you so much.
All right, I'll talk with you soon.
Take care, bud.